What secret could ruin your life if it got out? That my uncle raped and prostituted me out for drugs when I was 7. I've tried talking to my parents about my mental health before, and it's always ended badly, so I just don't try anymore. If they found this out, I am certain they wouldn't believe me, would gossip to everyone about what a liar I am, and I'd be even more of a black sheep in my family. And if they did happen to believe me, I'm sure they'd find a way to blame me. I did this in middle school by rewriting the story for Space Camp, but with me and the people in my class in the cast for a writing assignment. I couldn't come up with anything and told the teacher that, and she said, "I don't care, you better write something," so that's what I did. Little did I know that apparently none of my teachers had ever watched movies, because she was so impressed that she showed it to all the other teachers, and one of them submitted it to some story contest which I ended up winning for my school level. At the county level, it was immediately labeled plagiarism, and the original teacher got all PC with me, to which I responded simply, "You told me I better write something, so I did." I used to mark provincial year-end exams for grade 9 seconds last grade before high school. If we had someone who obviously plagiarized a storyline, they lost marks in one category, but the 5 other categories were marked the same. If someone wrote a fanfic, they might lose 1-2 points in the ideas or content category, since some of the descriptions for top marks included the words unique and insightful. Plagiarism is taken very seriously, however. At this point, they're not going to come after you for it if you've already graduated and time passed. When I was in college, my area of study was history, focusing on ancient cultures. For a class one semester, we had an assignment to watch the movie 300 and write an analysis of it, comparing the movie to the actual historical facts. Got an A on that paper. The next semester, in a different class, we had nearly the same assignment, but with some additional points that were needed for the assignment. So I basically just added a few things here and there to the paper, turned it in again, got in it. Technically, that's plagiarism, even if it's my own work and property cited, but I'm not going to rewrite a paper for the same assignment given twice. That would asinine. Reminds me of how in 8th grade we had to write a short fiction story, and I had no idea how to write one, so I went into the bowels of the Y2K internet. I found a story about an exterminator that was secretly infesting people's homes with bees so he could continue to have a job, and I changed a few words and submitted it as my own. My English teacher got suspicious and approached me in the halls, asked me to define a few words I had used to make sure it was me who wrote it and knew those words. Luckily, I was a pretty smart kid with a good vocab and cut her mustard. Then tornitin.com became a thing. It's really the only thing I can't forgive my parents for. I came to them and told them when I was 6 or 7. I truly thought they'd protect me and make it stop, but they called me a liar and punished me for having dirty thoughts. I sat alone in my room and cried, because if I couldn't count on my parents to protect me, then who would? It felt even worse than being molested. I will carry that with me forever. I bet my parents don't even remember, and I've decided not to tell them because I don't think I'd feel any better afterwards, and they'd probably feel a lot worse. I think about it a lot though. I had issues for a while, and I guess I still have a few, but for the most part I've matured beyond them. I'm the best version of myself that I can be, which I never thought would happen. I can only hope that the person who did that to me turned out okay too. I never pursued any legal action because he was also a kid at the time, a bigger, meaner, more developed kid, but still a child, and I really think the only reason he was doing that to me was because someone did it to him first. It was the early 90s, so there's a good chance it was something he learned from experience. So now, just feel sad for both of us and hope that he grew up into a better person. It seems like he did, but I have no desire to see him or ask him about it. I hope you're doing okay too. Life can be unfair, but we can overcome so much more than we think. If that's the case, then they don't deserve your love. Last week, I had to tell my sister that our dead dad, who she had always put on the very highest of pedestals, was a lying, cheating, closeted bisexual. I'm gay, don't come at me for that last bit, Reddit, you've no fucking idea. She had a very hard time with it, but didn't doubt for a second I'd told the truth. She knows me, and knows I'd have absolutely zero reasons to make shit up like that. That was before I told her that Mom and I had talked, and that she'd found him inside the neighbor one night, while she was pregnant with me. I didn't need that second source in her eyes. Tell your family, and if they don't believe you, erase them. It would be so hard, but I'm willing to bet better for you in the long run. When my sister was going through an alcoholic mental health crisis, she decided to tell our family and friends all of my secrets. I was trying to convince her to get help. She resented me for it and felt exposing me would take the heat off of her. Typical narcissist if behavior deflecting attention away from themselves. If she is going down, she's going to take me with her. A lifetime worth of sins and regrets that if I could go back in time I might change. Nothing I did was illegal, but some people consider immoral. It was very personal stuff that I never wanted to share. Well, everybody knows now. I was put in a difficult position at open conversations I never intended to have with our family. I offered to have an open dialogue and answer any questions. No one cared. It completely backfired on her. In fact, I received love and support while she's been completely ostracized by most of Outlet's family. They found her behavior to be self-righteous and deplorable. Being found out didn't ruin me, it freed me. My husband's mother was officially cut off in 2018 after she stole money from us to buy more alcohol and was a drunk freak show around my kids again. She spent almost a full decade bullying me non-stop to keep the attention off of her, and it worked for that long too. I thought I just had a problem fitting into the family and even felt guilty sometimes. But nope, I was fine. She was just a drunk who decided to externalize all the drama to me to protect herself. Haven't spoken to her since, and it's been so chill. She tries to bully me through his older sister, but I banned her from my house. She is an adult with grown children whom for years have witnessed her destructive behavior, begged her to get help, rejoiced when she got healthy just to watch the cycle repeat itself. The brunt of her behaviors were felt by her children. It slowly spread to her siblings, then her friends and her church family. We would love for her to be healthy and sober, but you can't force it on someone, and at some point, you need to find your own peace. My gay male friend raped me from 12-16. He was a narcissist who I believe may have been sexually abused himself at a very young age. I was terrified of him revealing to anyone that we'd experimented, as he called it. But one day, someone I went out with questioned why I was so scared of a friend, and I realized I had to get away. I cut him off, and he tried to go full revenge mode and tell everyone my secret, but luckily at that stage, everyone realized he was a knob and didn't think it could be true. He did stalk me for years, but eventually got bored and gave up. I was still so disgusted with myself, I got high every day for 6 years to forget what he did to me and others. Eventually, got therapy, and was able to tell everyone the truth, though I was so ashamed. And everyone was so supportive, it set me free. Nearly 3 years clean. Still working out whether to report him to police, as not sure if it will ruin other victims' lives. FAFQ. I'm an addict, and as one, she was very stupid for doing that to you, but I love that it freed you. I've hid my addiction for 25 years. I'm 40 and my sister told everyone, even my daughter. I never lost anything or anyone in 25 years of drug abuse until she opened her mouth. Now, ruined with no one, and she sits back with no remorse. I want to smash her two-faced face, and sorry I needed to let that out. I'm going to rehab, so maybe it pushed me to get the help I need. I'm the most loyal, trusted addict around. I've never stolen or talked tea or started issues. I pay my bills. I'm a good person. Anyway, drugs or not, let's start watching who let in our lives and open up to. People suck. I think the process of overcoming addiction can definitely apply to tons of other self-management and mental disorders. It all comes down to discipline, reminding yourself to try and stay motivated to actively correct your negative thought patterns and muscle memory. Replacing bad habits with other more positive uses of time, good habits, and also having a support system that you love and trust. It's too hard alone. It's possible to do it alone, but it's so much easier and more fulfilling when you have people who care about you, who you can always look to when you need to be reminded of your worth, your immediate goals, your past progress, and just having someone to vent to who won't judge you. Many times addicts, people with depression, anxiety, and any personal struggle will resort to self-isolation, especially after COVID. Self-isolation, self-loathing, and idleness are all part of the same vicious cycle that too will fuel an addiction. The few times I can stop thinking about drugs entirely is always when I'm hanging out with people I trust and respect, and who also trust and respect me. Even as an introvert who's not very social, hanging out with good people, the best reminder that I'm worth it, entirely fixable, and reminds me that the struggle is worth overcoming because of the inner confidence, and life feels so much simpler in practice, and so much more beautiful, even perfect. You'll start appreciating your morning coffee, your meals time with friends or family, and you'll finally feel like you deserve all of the good that comes with it. I swear, it's like the universe knows when you're trying your absolute best to be the best you can be, and things just start falling into place perfectly. All of the tiny aspects of your personality lost to a disorder or addiction, you feel those little things slowly come back. When your mind is getting healthier, more disciplined, more positive, it all comes back no matter how long you've done drugs or suffered. Your humor, personality, interests, hobbies all come back. Your way of speaking improves, you communicate better, and you're just more in tune with your surroundings. You start feeling whole again. When you are functioning as your natural whole self, your intuition and self-respect do most of the work for you. After a certain point, you really just gotta show up, do what you have been doing, and the rest will fall into place. I have bipolar disorder with comorbid ADHD. When I'm depressed, my brain can't be motivated. It's not a matter of working at it and willpower. If it doesn't get naturally boosted, there is no motivation in the well to be utilized. It doesn't all come down to discipline. It's not a matter of figuring out how to tap into it. When depressed, I can't connect to when I once felt good and have no recollection of what it feels like. Past progress is like it was in another lifetime. I also end up isolated because I can't mentally handle being around people. It is emotionally, mentally, and physically draining. Being around people doesn't help me feel better. It doesn't help distract my brain. It really just shoves me in a position where all my feelings become heightened, and it's incredibly overwhelming. If what you said works for you, great. But what you're saying doesn't work for many people's mental illness struggles. It's not a matter of following the plan you've laid out. It's not a matter of trying harder. I'm stuck in a vortex, and I can't get out without medical intervention. My depression also doesn't tend to come along with feelings of having no worth. I know I have worth, lots of it. Doesn't make me feel a lick better. I don't feel the way I do because I feel unworthy of living life. I look back now and think WF was that, but you know, it gave me so much strength and self-worth. I worked in the field for a few years, it's just getting worse. Didn't realize how negatively it was affecting me and my life choices. I got out. Now, work in a warehouse. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. If you asked me where I'd be in 6 years, 6 years ago, I would have answered with dead and a smile of pure torture behind it. I just want everyone to fucking live, man. It's so sad. And people are so fucking quick to judge. It pisses me off more than anything. If you have not been through IT, if you have not had someone close to you go through IT, if you're not currently going through IT, I don't want to hear WF you have to say. This T is more than a disease, a disorder, a choice. Whatever TF you want to classify it as, it's a heart and soul problem if we really get to the bottom of it, at least for me. Also, this was not directed towards anyone in particular. I guess I just needed to rant about it for a minute. One last thing, people like you who support and encourage rather than enable, we need you and we love you. I'm 7 months clean from alcohol. It took me a long time, and I kept failing because the program I was trying just wasn't meant for me, and though it was my fault, I couldn't make it work. Then I found one that I really like, and it works for me. Just remember, there are other programs besides 12 steps that can help. Smart Recovery at the one I used. Don't give up. You can do it. The hardest part about alcohol is how it tricks you into thinking it takes away the pain when in reality it's causing the pain. It will make you feel like shitty the next day. Then you drink to feel better, but it only continues the cycle. The only way out is to suffer through the withdrawal till it stops, and you can finally start take care of the things in life you're avoiding. Then life gets better. I believe in you. Remember, the journey out of addiction is not linear. There are good days and bad days, but as long as you are trying, it'll slowly get better. One day, you'll look at yourself and say, wait, when did I start feeling good again? Really can, and will happen to you. You're not trapped. I promise. I kicked PKs and methadone, and it was shy AF, so shout out to anyone who makes it to the other side. I never got help or went to a clinic, I did it all on the street. Worst decision I made was to try methadone to kick the other junk instead of the old cold turkey. It's a hell of a leap. And painful AF, but it's a blessing to not be living that life anymore. I have friends in the ground and friends I can't let in my house. Congrats and Godspeed to anyone who gets back to life. I still drink too much liver, probably looks like tea, but this life is a process. And you've got to find those things that bring you joy and slough off the nonsense that's bringing you down. I kicked PKs and methadone, and it was shy AF, so shout out to anyone who makes it to the other side. I never got help or went to a clinic, I did it all on the street. Worst decision I made was to try methadone to kick the other junk instead of the old cold turkey. It's a hell of a leap and painful AF, but it's a blessing to not be living that life anymore. I have friends in the ground and friends I can't let in my house. Congrats and Godspeed to anyone who gets back to life. I still drink too much liver, probably looks like tea, but this life is a process, and you've got to find those things that bring you joy and slough off the nonsense that's bringing you down. I feel this on every level. Didn't do the methadone due to horror stories, and the fact that it's in your bones is enough for me. I drank too much after I got out of the endless pit of insanity that is fentanyl, but it took like 2 years for it to become a problem. Then I said, "Faff this. It's no different, and I'm sick of feeling like tea." Nobody says you need to go out and drink just because others are. But nobody told me how much I would love getting boxed wine and plastered in my own home, either Lamau. That was my kind of night. Now, I can't stand the smell of it for like the last year. I'm sure you already know this, but you established dominance over PKs and methadone. You can defeat this one too, when you're ready. Love the perspective. If we focus on shy things that happen, that's all we are going to see, know and look for. And when we start turning it around and focus on the opposite, that's where the beauty is. The first time I ever touched an opiate, I was 15 years old, and my dad had Vicodin left over from breaking his wrist. I took 2 upstairs and crushed them, snorted, and got smacked hard. I didn't touch them again after finishing both of his scripts for about 2 years. Without giving you my whole life story, I had a rehab stint at 17 for Xanax, knew nothing about anything. I didn't even know these places existed. Got my first job in college, and that's when I found what I like to call the pharmaceutical version of heroin, roxicodone. It's all the opiate with minimal to no blocker. That was it. It was over, I was hooked. I finally found something that made me social, gave me energy and confidence, boosted my mood, allowed me to do literally anything. I was invincible until I wasn't. Too expensive, too hard to find someone reliable and not get burnt. So then there was dope, then there was the needle, then there was nothing. My body needed it, my mind needed it, every fucking inch of my skin would crawl if I didn't. My detox. Holy shit, I would not wish that on anyone. Even medically monitored, I really thought it was the end. I had a really kick at S's lawyer. She saved my life from years in jail. She was able to get all of the felonies removed, and they left me with 2 M2s, which was unexpected. I was caught in a drug raid in June 2016. For context, it took about 1.5 years to get sentenced. My advice to you is look for some kind of resource around your area where you can meet with some type of coach. I'm not sure where you live, but around here, it is called Over and CareerLink. They'll set you up with funding for schooling, etc. I did get a certification from school for a certified recovery specialist, and used it for 3 years until I couldn't stand watching people die after I saw them the day before. You can have felonies and acquire employment doing so. Not sure if that's something you want to do. A lot of companies are willing to overlook if you're honest and open with them, surprisingly. 'Cause it's either that or they'll find out in their own when they do your background check. I don't think it would ruin my life, but my dad would be pretty disappointed if he knew how much meth I did when I was 18. I don't do it anymore, but I used to have week-long binges so high and sleep deprived I'd start hallucinating. I still think about it sometimes. I'm grateful I couldn't afford to use it anymore, honestly. I guess I just wanted to get that off my chest. I've kept on the down low. I used to be an alcoholic. I used to live in one state and moved to another, so it made it easier. I went to rehab and detox after aftercare program. Afterwards, a sober home and my own apartment, but it's always a stigma if I let anyone know my journey. I'm 31, and honestly it sucks, because I want to break free from lying, but it's tough, because I believe anyone I tell will judge me and not want to talk to me. It's easier to lie, and it's worked so well so far, so why fix what's not broken? But I also get how it can eventually catch up, just stuck in the middle. I perform background checks for a living. A name-based check will not accomplish much as your identifiers don't match. If you ever end up getting fingerprinted, that could lead to a potential headache. Felony convictions should be reported to the FBI. It varies by state and can be missed. From there you'll be assigned an FBI number that will correspond with the fingerprints that were rolled at the jail. Fingerprint-based checks are comprised of two aspects: a state portion for where you live and a federal portion for any other history. I'm not trying to freak you out, just providing information. I got arrested for less than a gram of weed in a pipe in the state I live in a few years back. Was supposed to go to court, but I was out of town and they refused to reschedule, so I just skipped it. Technically, I have a warrant, but the cops did the same with me. Incorrectly spelled my name and didn't get my birthday right. I've also had a background check ran on me a few times, and nothing ever came back. Lamal. Happened to me when I got a minor in possession at a house party. Someone broke the breathalyzer right away, so they just passed out tickets to everyone. When we all lined up at the first court date, I said NG and they scheduled the second date. About 5 minutes of waiting without the cop, and the judge recommended I quickly leave and have a nice life. When I was 11, I was told to take out the trash, and I did. But for context, my family had a grill with a box of matches next to it, and it was fall, but I burned some dead leaves for like 2 minutes. Then I stomped on them to put out the fire, but all did was push it right next to our house. And then the house went up the flames, and my parents had very well-paying jobs, so they were able to pay for the damages. But when the authorities came and firefighters put out the fire, they were wondering how it started, and the authorities suspected someone jumped to the fence and lit up the leaves to burn our house down. Our parents, scared for my life, moved somewhere else, and they lost the jobs and lost a lot of money moving to our new house. And for the next solid 7 years, we lived like shit, and my parents still do not know that I'm the reason they have to look like that. One time in elementary school, there was this really big, important test. I was out sick that day, as were a handful of other kids. Flu season. There were like 6 of us total who had to make up the test. We were put in a separate room and told to be quiet and focus on our tests. Our teacher would be checking on us very soon. A few minutes after she left, a voice calls out, "Does anyone know the answer to number 7? Next thing you know, we've got one kid looking out at the door while we all discuss and tell each other the answers. I think the teacher checked on us once after a while, but we were already mostly done and at a lull. We all got A's and high B's. I know this isn't a life-ruining secret, but I've been holding that in for almost 20 years lol. I draw furry porn and make great money off of it. I have a normal job, but I use the art money for things I want, like expensive clothes or bath and body works, candles. Anyways, this isn't a job you drop everything FO, nor can you live off. It's a side hustle and gets me the little things I want on the side. It's mostly Discord commissions, and I'm not telling you the type of art, it is too embarrassed.